All ready? Clerk, call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Now I just got to get my notes out here and figure out what to do next. Our invocation this morning will be delivered by Minister Michael Orr from the Saginaw Church of Christ. Appreciate you coming down. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledge.
Let's pray together. Righteous and loving Heavenly Father, we're so very thankful to be here today, to be able to do such important things for this county. We're thankful for all those officials here who are gathered for the well-being of our county and all those people who are involved. We thank you, Lord, that you love us so much, that even in great and difficult times, those struggling in Louisiana and other places, Oklahoma, with natural disasters and other things, that you are always with us and care for us. We thank you for those behind the scenes that take care of all the needs of those who are hurting. Father, as the agenda is full of those who are struggling with various problems and ailments and difficulties, I pray that as the court meets and talks about these various struggles, that you give them the wisdom and the understanding and the compassion to help those who are in need and those who cry out for help. We thank you for this new school year, and we pray for all the teachers and students and all of those who are involved in education, that you would raise up this next generation, a great group of leaders who can lead this area and this country. And we pray for our upcoming elections that you would give all the voters wisdom to make good decisions about who would take care of this great country of ours. Be with this state in Texas as well, and bless all those who are in places of power and who can make decisions that will better our lives. I pray a blessing on the judge and all of those commissioners here, a blessing on their families, a blessing on their health, a blessing on their lives. I pray also for all those who work for them and those who are here in various positions. Bless them and be with them. Give them wisdom and patience. I know, Father, that many of the things that are decided and all the things that are done are unseen by the public, and often what they might hear might be what's wrong or what they don't like. I pray thanksgiving for all these folks who work so hard for the benefit of others, even when others might not acknowledge that. And I'm thankful that they're acknowledging employees and those who have worked so hard the past few years today. Bless them and be with them. Father, we thank you for this great country. We thank you for being in a place of freedom, a place of opportunity, a place where we can have so many opportunities to do good for others. I thank you for Tarrant County. I'm so thankful to live here and to be a part of this great community. I'm thankful that you have blessed us while many other places may struggle. You blessed us with wealth. You blessed us with being a part of a place where there's so much good and so many good people. People love to live here, Father, and we're thankful for that. And we pray that you would continue to bless Tarrant County and bless all the peoples who represent this place. Father, again, be with this court and be with all the decisions they make. May your wisdom and knowledge and understanding be upon their hearts and minds today. We ask you all these things in your holy Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much for coming out today. Agenda announcements, Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Honor. Members of the court, we have only one announcement as it relates to our agenda today, and that's under the County Administrator section, item A3. This concerns statutory probate judge, probate court number 2. we will be taking that particular item up after closed today. Thank you, Your Honor.
I believe Luis, Board Chair of TCC, I believe you have somebody you'd like to introduce to the group. Bring him forward, and then we'll give him a few moments to make a few comments. Thank you all very much. Conrad, we appreciate you being here today also.
Thank you for letting us come this morning. I want to introduce you to my new best friend, the new Chancellor of Tarrant County College District, Dr. Eugene Giovannini.
Thank you, Ms. Judge. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here today. You've probably read a lot about the recent months, the whole search process that this board went through and engaged at length and did a great deal of due diligence. One thing that goes overlooked in the process is that, yes, board members are making a selection, but equally the candidate is making a selection. And I've had the fortune to work in some other states and colleges and universities, and I'm very, very pleased to be able to come here and to continue my career. I know a great deal in the past about Tarrant County College, and I really look forward to working with this community and continuing that great tradition. So thank you for having me this morning.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Next, we have a proclamation regarding National Preparedness Month, and we have here to accept this David McCurdy, who is our newest Emergency Management Coordinator, as well as William Wessel, who is our Assistant Emergency. So y'all come on forward. David, you've been here, what, all of a couple of weeks? 1 week. Well, welcome. I hope that you have a better start than what some of our prior folks with public health coordinators, or directors, we've had Ebola and we've had West Nile within a couple of weeks of them coming. So, and you came around the hurricane time, so, yeah.
Did he come from Phoenix?
No, he didn't know. He didn't come. He came from right here in this area, DFW.
Right.
So we're very excited about him being here, and I will go ahead and read this proclamation into the record. Whereas National Preparedness Month, an event founded after the tragedy of 9/11 to increase preparedness in the U.S., creates an important opportunity for every resident of Tarrant County to prepare their homes, businesses, and communities for any type of an emergency, including natural disasters and potential terrorist attack. And whereas investing in the preparedness of ourselves, our families, businesses, and communities can reduce fatalities and economic devastation in our communities and in our nation. And whereas Tarrant County is working closely with its planning and response partners, including municipalities, private organizations, volunteer agencies, community groups, and education providers, to increase public activities in preparing for emergencies and to educate individuals on how to take action. And whereas emergency preparedness is the responsibility of every citizen of Tarrant County, and all citizens are urged to make preparedness a priority and work together as a team to ensure the individuals, families, and communities are prepared for disasters and emergencies of any type. And whereas all citizens of Tarrant County are encouraged to participate in citizen preparedness activities to become more prepared by taking 3 simple steps: get an emergency supply kit, make a plan for what to do in an emergency, and be informed by identifying sources of information in your community that will be helpful before, during, and after an emergency. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim September 2016 as National Preparedness Month and encourage all citizens and businesses to develop their own emergency preparedness plan and work together toward creating a more prepared society. In witness whereof, we have herein to set our hands and cause the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed the 6th day of September 2016. And I'll move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. get up here and see if we can get a picture. No, I'm not ready. All right, make some comments. Let us hear you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here after a while at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport and then some at the city of Grapevine prior to that. This proclamation is very important because all of us have responsibility for our own safety and our own well-being. This gives us an opportunity not only to plan for ourselves, but also to plan for our families and our co-workers and whoever else we might be near. So by bringing this forward, giving people an idea of, hey, we need to do this throughout the month and throughout the year with all the crazy things that are going on, it just doesn't happen in September. So I appreciate the opportunity for this. Thank you all for your support, and we'll be visiting.
Thank you. I'd seek a motion for the approval of the minutes.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Now we come to our once a month opportunity to recognize employees who make Tarrant County such a great place in which to live and to raise a family and to work. And I truly, truly mean it when I say that it would not be as great a place without these dedicated employees. They really have a focus and a passion for public service, and so it's a great opportunity to be able to recognize them. So while I kind of move things around here a little bit, we're going to start off with our 5-year employees, and y'all may or may not be familiar with the routine, but I'm going to call your name or what sounds like your name. You kind of know where you are in the alphabet. So if it sounds like you are to be next and it doesn't sound like your name, you go ahead and stand up anyway. They'll give me enough grief about the way I pronounce it that I won't need any help in that part of it. And then we'll call the entire group and then have an opportunity to recognize you and thank you for your service in just a little way that we can. So beginning with our 5-year, first is James Brox, Purchasing Department. Brent Brown, Sheriff's Office. Sylvester Clayton, Sheriff's Office. Gavin Dumit, Sheriff's Office. Either these folks aren't here or I'm really doing a bad job so far. James Greenlee, Sheriff's Office. There he is. Thank you, sir. Nope, keep standing. See, you gotta work with these rookies. Marcus Hanna, Criminal District Attorney's Office. Matthew Hardy, Criminal District Attorney's Office. Leanna Haynes, Sheriff's Office. Kevin Hollis, Public Health. Rosie Rodriguez, Domestic Relations. Tiffany Smith, Public Health Department. Leanna Tarango, Sheriff's Office. Usually I can, sound, this is good. Marty Ugahart, Sheriff's Office. Well, either all the ones that I mispronounced are not here, or we just got lucky. These are our 5-year employees. Thank you very much. Now for our 10-year employees. Jonathan Boyce, Sheriff's Office. David Crane, Sheriff's Office. Billy Danielle, Criminal Courts Administration. Roger Ferretti, Jr., District Clerk's Office. Rebecca Ferris, County Clerk's Office. Ismaela Garcia, Sheriff's Office. I didn't even get close to that first name, did I? Yeah, well, I kind of figured that. Is it Esmeralda? Well, I got a little bit closer the second time. Beverly Harrelson Thorpe, Sheriff's Office. Preston Igori, Sheriff's Office. Chief just sat back there laughing. I can just see him back there laughing. Dana Jackson, Information Technology. Keisha Jackson, Justice of the Peace, Precinct 8. Joseph Janicki, Criminal Courts Administration. Richard Nutt, Criminal District Attorney's Office. Waylon Parks, Precinct 1. Wayne Pollard, Housing Department. Lonnie Pruitt, Sheriff's Office. Nettie Talbert, Sheriff's Office. Nancy Lynn Thurman, Juvenile Services. Nicholas Torres, Sheriff's Office. Paula Wall, Sheriff's Office. Philip Williams, Sheriff's Office. And Tanya Young, Sheriff's Office. These are our 10-year employees. Now for our 15-year employees. Catherine Anderson, District Attorney's Office. Daniel Blanco, Information Technology. John Briggs, Medical Examiner's Office. Sonia Cisneros, Information Technology. Gina Cliff, Tax Office. William Eason, Precinct 2. Cameron Wheat, Sheriff's Office. Larry Wilson, Human Resources. Now for our, y'all can sit down. Just wanted that little bit more recognition. That's that 15-year group, that's that middle group, you know, it's kind of like the middle child. Now for our 20-year employees, Linda Blair, the 352nd District Court. Cornelius Carey, Juvenile Services. James Daniels, Sheriff's Office. Elva Delgado, Public Health. Billy Heyman, Sheriff's Office. Karen Lemons, Public Health. Anna Moore, Sheriff's Office. And Jeanette Wallace, Human Resources. Thank all of y'all. Now for our, I've just gotten an idea here. There's 5, 10, 15, and 20 whose names we call out. That's 4 different categories. So we could have each one of y'all call out those categories, and then I could do the 25 and 30.
Judge, you're doing good.
Just remember that.
That's why you get the big bucks.
For our 25-year plus, our first is Sam Adamy from Public Health with 25 years. Started out in the in public health in kind of the air control and in the poison control area. I think, kind of as we talked, what it is just basically the environmental health area. When I ask him about memorable moments, some of y'all may almost be too young to remember this. Was the Burgers Lake. Remember when they had to close down Burgers Lake for a while? Well, we were out there helping with that. He said, I love the people I've had a chance to work with, my co-workers. He said, I really enjoy interacting with the public and helping them get answers. And, I think most people don't realize that part of public health. It really is more than just the clinics and the different things along that lines. It's when something happens, they get out there and really work with the partners. And in fact, when we were talking this morning, and when I asked him what had happened over the last 5 years, he again highlighted some of the recent partnerships with the community from TCU, initiatives with school programs where they're working with kids and targeting obesity and diabetes, things that you just don't normally think about when you think about public health. And I think that's was something that that he really enjoyed working with. He mentioned he's got 2 kids. One will graduate from high school this year, and she plays a lot of tennis, and I think has been ranked high in the state. Then she had one that graduated from. He's not in here. He's probably out there listening. From Arkansas, and because of course that he was from Texas and went to Arkansas. I mean, I think he graduated with honors, and I mean, he's just one of the outstanding folks. He actually got his degree in engineering, and I think from talking with Sam, it looks like he's about to head to work in Australia. So the commute to visit is going to be a little bit further than what it may have been. In fact, he commented that he had been over the weekend, and that it made him really appreciate the time that he had with him, knowing that he was about to probably end up going to Australia. He kind of closed in saying he really enjoyed the fact that the county has such a great group of people who really care about others in public service. And I think that really is, as I mentioned earlier, I think that really speaks to the greatness of Tarrant County. And it's folks like Sam and all of y'all out there who really have a passion to work not for the ID or for any kind of awards or anything like that, but really works to try to make this community better. Sam, thank you for your 25 years of service. Okay, next is Lisa Callahan with the District Attorney's Office. 25 years of service. Started out as a misdemeanor attorney, then moved into the felony area, and she's now chief of the 372nd District Court. And she's worked on, when I asked her the last 5 years, she said, I've worked on some pretty high-profile cases and some just ugly cases. And when we talked the last time, she mentioned she's obviously just continuing that because she had worked on the Opal Jennings case. So, she worked again on the crimes against children. When I asked her what she liked most, she said the fact that the benefits were especially good when you had kids, and it was hard to work sometimes as a working mom. She had worked actually in Harris County before coming up here to Tarrant County. She really has enjoyed working for the folks that, for the DAs that that she's had a chance to serve under. She said, what I really enjoy about getting promoted to that chief is the fact that I get to train young lawyers. And she said, as I think back over it, as I talked with folks, friends, she said, I just don't know very many folks who get to enjoy their work as much as I do. And I think that just speaks volumes. Lisa, thank you very, very much for the 25 years. Next is Tommy Darthor for Juvenile Services, 25 years. Jerry Wood was the head of our Juvenile Services for many years and taught out at TCU. And over and over and over again, as I talk with folks who've been in Tarrant County for a long time, many of them came because of Jerry Wood, and certainly Tommy's one of those folks. He started out as an intern, then he did some part-time work his senior year, joined the department after he graduated as a detention officer, became a field officer in '92, and has been the supervisor in the southeast area since '96. When I asked him what his memorable moments were, he said, it used to be that every Friday TYC would come and pick up the youth. And one Friday they tried to pick him up. And that was shortly after he'd started, so he was probably looking a little younger then than what he is now, although you still look pretty young. But they tried to put him on the bus and had to convince him that he wasn't one going, he was one staying. I think the folks around him kind of witnessed that, no, don't take him, and I think they kind of told him afterwards, if you don't act nice, the next time we may let him take you. He said, I've had a chance to meet a lot of people around the state. He said the county really takes care of their people and gives them the tools to do their job, and doesn't try to get in and meddle. It just gives them the opportunity to do that. He said When he started, you know, I asked people, did you ever expect to be here this many years when you started? And he said, yes, I hoped I would be here this long. He said, over the last 5 years, they've seen a lot of improvements in the research and technology area. He said, I'm looking forward to the new facilities as we get those taken care of. Again, he said, I always feel like that the county has been there to help me do my job and not get in the way of me doing my job. So, Tommy, we appreciate very, very much the 25 years you've given us. Thank you. Now, Peggy Dunlap was to be next, but she wasn't going to be able to make it down here today. She had 25 years. She works at Precinct 6, so she actually had 28 years, but through the magic of HR, she's only got 25 now. It's one of those things, you know, it just happens. But if you have a chance to see Peggy, would you please congratulate her on her 28 years of service with Tarrant County. Next is Debbie Edwards, Criminal District Court number 3. There she is. Started out in Judge Gilfeather's court, which was CCC number 10, as a court reporter, and then after 19 years moved to CDC number 3. Most memorable moment was a big criminal trespass case that had 21 defendants. They had 4 juries and heard all the cases at the same time in 4 different rooms.
Wow.
So that was quite a show, I'm sure. She said, I feel like I've been blessed to work for 3 judges, and she said, I plan to stay until I can. And she still feels that way. Now, when I asked her kind of what had happened over the last 5 years, she said Judge Cataloni had come on board and said she can't retire. He just isn't going to let her retire. Both her kids have graduated from high school. Her daughter graduated from Tarleton, and her son, we should have gotten to this earlier, her son's starting at TCC this fall. You should have gone up and grabbed him, because you never know when you're going to need the chancellor on your side. As I said, the daughter graduated from Tarleton. Kinesiology, was that? I thought I had to just remember the word because I could have never spelled it. But she said, you never know exactly what impressions you make on your kids. Her kids are actually starting, or her daughter is actually starting court reporting school. Is it today?
Wow.
Today. So Mama had a little influence there. And like I said, we often don't know if they hear anything we say, but oftentimes maybe they see more than what they hear. Debbie, thank you very much for the 25 years of service. Now, next on the list is Emma Emmett. Emma retired yesterday, or the 4th, after 25 years of service with Tarrant County. So I called and talked with her, and she said, won't be able to make it down, but she said, I really enjoyed my time with Tarrant County and couldn't believe how fast it had gone by. So let's give a hand to Emma for 25 years of service. Next is Tony Freeman, County Criminal Court number 9. She said, I started out as a court reporter and has been there since it opened with Judge Carr. And I think they're kind of a little family. There's 2 or 3 of you that have been there the whole time. She said, when I first came to work, we were typing with carbon paper. And now we're paperless. So just think about what's occurred in that 25 years over when we really think about technology and what it's done for us. She said, I love the benefits. I love the fact that we're one big family. And again, that family stayed pretty close together. She said, still not thinking about retirement. She has a grandson. She is actually the chairwoman for the Texas Court Reporter Conference, which is going to be held here in Fort Worth this year.
Excellent.
So we're very excited about that. And she organized a group of court reporters who went out and took histories of different folks. And as a result of that, about a couple of months ago, she got to ride in a C-130 refueler and got to go out and watch that plane refuel F-16s. And so that was, Judge Carr happened to be on that flight. I happened to be on that flight also. And that was one of those bucket list things that you just kind of check off. And, you know, not many people get to do it. And it's a real privilege and a real honor to be able to do that. So it's, you know, that was pretty neat. Tony, thank you very much for your 25 years of service.
Jump off a C-130. That's the next item to do. You didn't go jump off a C-130.
No. I wouldn't mind doing that. I really wouldn't. I'm not sure how excited my wife. Of course, I've got more insurance. She might be pretty excited.
We'll have to increase our stop loss.
Next is Patty Medley, but she is on vacation and will not be able to attend. She has spent 25 years in the tax office. And so please congratulate her when next you see her. Next is Mark Ortega, Constable Precinct 6. There he is. 25 years. Started in the Sheriff's Department with Don Carpenter over in the old Belknap Jail, then went to patrol. Then in 2004 went to the Constable's office and was promoted to Chief in 2008. He said, you know, the people all over the county have been real friendly and they just want to help folks. So he said the time's gone by pretty quick. Now, when I talked with him, most of those comments came from when I talked with him 5 years ago. So when I asked him what had happened over the last 5 years, he said, well, I'm retiring in September. So we're getting pretty close. He has 4 kids. The oldest is 30. The youngest is 5. Yeah, trust me, I said exactly the same thing to him.
Accidents do happen.
Yeah, well, I don't know that it was an accident. But he said he has 2 grandchildren, a boy and a girl. One is 1.5 years old and the other is 5 months. All I can say is you look young, and you're going to need to look young, because between that 5-year-old and those grandbabies, they're going to keep you moving. Mark, thank you very much for the 25 years of service you've given to Tarrant County. Next was Ann Wynn from Information Technology, but she also will not be able to attend. She was going on vacation. And 25 years of service. So when you see Ann, please congratulate her and thank her for her service. Next is Anthony Gardner, who is celebrating 30 years with the county, and he is in Constable Precinct 8. He wasn't sure he was going to be able to make it, and I guess he wasn't. So please congratulate Anthony for his 30 years of service to Tarrant County. That represents a total of 835 years. We've got refreshments back here in 504C. Thank you, all of you, for the service that you give to Tarrant County.
Wilder the first one in?
Oh yeah, he was gone.
Oh, he was gone before he even mentioned it. Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you. You bet.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming.
I don't know how much longer this is gonna last.
They are because, I talked from what I've been told, I don't know.
Huh?
I don't know. You see, Ken, very much anytime people.
I didn't until I just remembered.
We've had two bad guys up there that didn't work out from Richland Hill. Richland Hill is 10 times the size.
Don't make any difference.
I know
They've
that.
been,
I know that.
they've been there a long
I
time,
know that, but they're contributing.
and they're trying to get out.
Well, and that's not the reason you want to put them on the board. If they want to get out, all they gotta do is get out.
Richmond Hills is trying to get out.
Yeah, maybe. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Yes, sir.
This guy, from what the mayor of Richmond Hills tells me,
Some days, yeah.
in the same boat that they're in. He wants to get out.
I'm waiting for you to just simply stand up and say, do you understand?
That's my only concern.
No, that it wouldn't be nearly as much fun for him if I did that.
I talked to a guy probably a week ago. Came over and visited me, sent me a resume, talked to him. He wants to be on the keyboard. He lives in Richmond Hills. But he's they're all coming out of the same town. That's my only concern. There are people out there that want to see it work. In Richmond Hills, they've had 4 elections, and it's passed every time.
Well, we can all have
All the cities.
No,
And,
that's not the point.
You got one in Grapevine right now.
And grapevines contribute 10 times what Richland Hills contributes.
If I could get a motion, I'd like to move that we receive and file, or I'd like a motion to receive and file employee recognition.
moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously, and then we have before you the consent agenda.
Move for the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have 2 public hearings today. The first one concerns a public hearing in reference to the Tarrant County government's tax rate for tax year 2016. You might recall we did this 2 weeks ago, and this is the final public hearing, and we'll be setting the tax rate a week from today. The effective tax rate for Tarrant County is .248466. Our current tax rate is .264. The recommended proposed tax rate for Tarrant County is .254, which represents almost a 4% decrease from the current tax rate.
Okay, I will open this public hearing and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak to this matter, and I think we have some audience participation. Dr. Mark Mitchell, please come forward. And if you would please repeat your name and your address.
Judge and Commissioners, my name is Dr. Mark Mitchell. I live at 7220 Craig Street in Fort Worth. And I'm just to let you know a little bit about me, I'm a physician, attorney, custom home builder, and small business owner. And I'm also running for U.S. Congress in District 33. But today I don't come with really a political agenda. Earlier today I had the opportunity to speak with Commissioner Wynn, and I understand that there is a balancing act that the court has to do. And it's obviously a difficult balancing act that you have to do, taking resources and committing the money to those resources. However, I'm not coming on behalf of myself today. I'm really trying to speak for the vulnerable population in Tarrant County that really does not have a voice. And that is the poor, afflicted, and elderly citizens in Tarrant County that have limited income or fixed income. And I've reviewed the tapes in the past hearings and attended the Texas Senate Select Subcommittee on Property Tax Reform and Relief. And at that hearing, Judge Whitley, I think that you remember Chairman Betancourt suggested to all county judges and commissioners' courts across the state in the gentlest possible way that if appraisals are going up, then tax rates should be lowered to avoid harm to our citizens. And at that hearing, Lieutenant Governor Patrick basically reiterated that we don't have the luxury to spend people's money and price them out of their homes. We're going to reduce property taxes in the next legislative session. But the Comptroller Office data that I've looked at and that was mentioned at that hearing said that from 2005 to 2014, property taxes rose 2.5 times faster than median household incomes in Texas. In Tarrant County, this was also listed that the city of Fort Worth has increased tax levies 55%. And this was the highest of the 4 entities that were surveyed. While county tax levies have increased 36%, and this is the comptroller's data, not mine. But county tax levies have increased 36%, while median household incomes have only increased 20%. That's really double if we look at that. Chairman Betancourt said at the Senate Subcommittee that when you have property taxes increasing almost 3 times faster than Texans' paychecks, the system becomes unsustainable. And he was astonished when he heard the claim over and over again at that meeting that this was not a tax increase. He says a 20% tax increase on homes in 2 years is a tax increase. And he will defend taxpayers on that issue. As I'm running for office, I knock doors constantly and ask people what their issues are. I've traveled all around Tarrant County and Dallas counties and talked to thousands of people. And when asked, they answer and tell me that their number 1 issue is the economy. Number 2 is property taxes. And I believe that we must be mindful of this, especially in the vulnerable population, because Texans are being forced to change their lives to account for the increasing burden on their family budgets. When you increase property taxes, the money must come from somewhere. And most of the time, the sacrifice in the vulnerable population is in food, electricity, supplying heat and cool, and possibly medications. The situation is unsustainable for all citizens, but most especially that vulnerable population. I applaud Commissioner Wynn for the survey that was taken in his district because it was courageous, it was brave, and it was probably the right thing to do. But even Commissioner Wynn stated that the survey was not scientific. Yet even after he said it wasn't scientific, the county administrator, G.K. Manus, I believe, was his name, continue to use. Yes, it is. Continue to use that survey to suggest that property taxes in Tarrant County were at an adequate level or better. I disagree. Empower Texans sent out a Texas scorecard recently and asked the question, where do Texans pay the highest property taxes? The conclusion is that the median Texas homeowner pays the 4th highest effective property taxes nationwide. And inside Texas, the statistics that they give suggest that Tarrant County ranks number 10 out of 254. And that means that in Tarrant County, we are the 10th highest effective property taxes in the state. And I have a list if you'd like to see that. When I read this data, I stopped and immediately thought of Commissioner Wynn's survey, and I thought about the JPS health system and the subsequent need that they're suggesting for a bond issuance, and it gave me concern. I'm an expert in the field of medicine and the law. I did a health policy fellowship and have researched the complex issues of health policy and costs. And I believe the issue before this court today, and believe me, I believe you guys have done a fantastic job in balancing the budget and the resources and the income of the county, and I applaud you for all of that. However, I suggest that you be mindful, if you would, with a vulnerable population that an increase in taxes may affect so desperately. Who is to blame? Well, I believe there are many to blame. First, it's Comptroller Hager for sending out a letter to all appraisal districts demanding that the appraisal districts increase property appraisals to 100% of market value. And that would be a 20% increase over most property valuations. The next, I blame our own TAD's Jeffrey Law for deciding to implement Comptroller Hager's plan over 1 year instead of 2, which you suggested in the last meeting 2 weeks ago. I also blame any local, state, and federal officials who have sat around and done nothing. But I also blame myself for not rising to this podium earlier than at the 11th hour to fight for the weak, feeble, and elderly among us. I should have done more sooner before this craziness gets out of control. And lastly, I want this court to be mindful that if you don't adopt the effective rate, then citizens could be hurt in Tarrant County. The answer to this question before the court is what you're suggesting is a 2.2% increase in taxes, and that's really not that much. It's about, you're only about a half a cent away from the effective tax rate. But there is a 1.3% tax increase with the hospital district that amounts to a 6% increase in taxes. And combined, this is an 8.2% increase. The effective tax rate needs to be established. Anything other than that will be unsustainable. It may create a hardship on the weakest among us. But a wise man once recently said to me that sometimes we're faced with a decision to stay in a land in the face of oppression and lose your liberty, or leave and brave the sea and risk death 50% of the time. But you're free in that case. What do we do? Our founding fathers had a tea party when they were taxed without proper representation beyond that which they were able. The final question is, what do we do? Do we choose the sea and risk death? Do we live in oppression without liberty, or tea party? Today, I believe you have to answer that question, and we will live with your choice. Thank you very much.
Doctor, let me just ask a couple of questions, I guess.
Yes, sir.
The study that they used with the Benton Court talked about the increase in the collections of tax revenue from, I think it was 2005 to 2015.
14, yes, sir.
2014. Okay, and that's a gross dollar amount.
Yes, sir, it is.
And then you're referring to the median average income, which is really an average amount.
Yes, it is.
Let me just kind of give you some other information that might be helpful. If you look at that tax revenue that grew by whatever percentage you mentioned, I went back from 2005 or 2004 to 2014 because the personal income has not been released for 2015 yet. But in that same period of time, from 2004 to 2014, while the tax revenue grew, personal income number grew by a larger amount. So while the average increase in tax revenue collected was 3.94%, the average increase in personal income in Tarrant County was 5.59%. So if you look at the tax revenue as a percentage of the personal income, in 2004, tax revenue was 0.44% of personal income. And in 2014, it was 0.374%. So actually, the tax revenue is lower as a percentage of personal income in 2014 than it was in 2004. So when you're using an average and comparing it to a gross dollar amount, you need to be comparing apples and apples. So you really need to look at total gross tax revenue and total personal income. Part of the reason why we may have experienced the growth in tax revenue is because we have been one of the top 10 fastest growing counties in this country for that period of time. And each year, as you look through that, with the exception of 2008, around that area where we had that dip, the tax revenue as a percent of personal income has been going down. And I think that again speaks to, again, the growth that's been occurring in the county, the attracting business into this county. So as you look at that, you might use a comparison of an apple and an apple instead of an apple and an orange. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
We also have homestead exemptions for seniors over 65, I believe.
Tax freeze.
Tax freeze.
We have frozen the taxes of those over 65.
And the
I thought that was 70, actually. But
no, it's 65.
Okay. So we do have some mechanism in place to basically provide relief to the indigent and the poor that you were talking about.
Vulnerable population, yes. Specifically, is there like a pauper's affidavit or something that they could fill out or do in that instance, or what would be the mechanism for that with the vulnerable population?
Well, if they're over 65, now I know that's
Right.
not just the vulnerable, but if they're over 65 and they can't, where's our tax assessor collector? Is he sitting over there?
Yes, sir.
Is it age 65 where they can file the exemption from paying the property tax?
That's correct, and no matter when they turn 65, it's applicable for the whole year.
So if that's the case and they can't pay it at age 65 and they flock that, now it continues to grow and accumulate. And then upon their passing, either the sale of the home will pay that tax or their heirs can pay that tax if they'd rather pay the tax and keep the residence. So they've got that option at that point in time.
Let me just add, Judge, that has to be done at the appraisal district.
Okay. So as noted from 2 weeks ago, at your own risk.
Thank you so much.
I have to make one more comment, and it's not directly related to this issue, but it's somewhat important. As you can tell, this is a very important discussion between this court and the public. And we have so many different sets of data. We got to have one common set of data that this trust can count on. The integrity of that data is very important because the decisions we make have a long-term impact to the people of Tarrant County. And this is why I have been advocating for this court and the county to begin to build a set of data that we track on a regular basis, providing us historical insights as well as future trend and projections so that this court can base our decision on one common set of data instead of data from Empower Texan, data from individuals, surveys that are not scientific, and so forth. So that's
a good point. And I would point out, and we didn't make the presentation that we made it, and maybe we should go back and make that presentation, the one that we did before the public hearing last time. There have been many years when we were below the effective tax rate and didn't move up to the effective tax rate. So it's what we do is we look and make every effort to spend as little money as we can, and then we set our tax rate based upon that. Just as this year, we did reduce the tax rate by a penny. We didn't bring it all the way down, but in years past, nor did we make an attempt to move it up to the effective tax rate just because it was the effective tax rate. I really feel like that we do a very careful, diligent job of looking at what our expenditures have been, and I think all the elected officials here do an excellent job at trying to spend as little as they can to get the job done that needs to be done. And again, whether it was scientific or not, I think Commissioner Wynn's survey produced some good results, some good answers. And, as Commissioner Wynn mentioned, we sit up here and really try to wrestle with the decisions as to what needs to be done and be very critical about that. So while, again, it wasn't official, it wasn't statistically valid maybe, it gave up, in my mind, it gave me a good idea of what the taxpayers wanted, not only for the county, but also for the hospital.
Well, again, I applaud the court because I believe you are doing a very difficult job. It's just in my mind, I would like for you to be mindful of this specific population, if you would, and only to speak in regards to surveys. If just between you and me, and the public who's watching now. A survey, if it's not scientific, really is to me not useful. I deal with things all day long, surveys and scientific articles and so forth and so on. And if a paper or an article, if a study has not been done properly and scientifically based, then it's really not usable. That would be like me saying that my grandmother ate a cricket once and she got better in her health, and then me going and telling everybody that they should eat crickets to better their health. I don't really think that that's sustainable. But
thank you.
But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, let's see if I've got another person. Okay, I think that's it at least for the public hearing part of this. Anyone else wishing to speak to our on this particular matter, that matter being the county budget? Then I'll close the public hearing.
Your Honor, we do need to make an announcement that on September 13, 2016, at 10 o'clock in the morning, the Commissioners Court will be setting the county tax rate. That will occur in the Tarrant County Administration Building, the Commissioners Courtroom, 100 East Weatherford Street in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay. At this time, I will open the public hearing concerning the Tarrant County Hospital District's tax rate and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak to this matter. Doctor, you had put in, I think, a request for this one also. Did you have other comments? Thank you very much, sir, and thank you for being here today. There appearing to be no other folks here to speak at this public hearing, then we'll close this public hearing. And Mr. Manius?
Thank you, Your Honor. Once again, members of the court, please be advised that the Tarrant County Commissioners Court will be adopting the tax rate for Tarrant County Hospital District for tax year 2016, which will happen next Tuesday, September 13th, 2016 at 10 o'clock in the morning. That action will occur in the Commissioners Courtroom in the Tarrant County Administration Building located at 100 East Weatherford Street in Fort Worth.
And with that, I'll call you to the podium to discuss items in your area.
Your Honor, members of the court, the first item is going to be handled by Mr. Mendez.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning, we're seeking approval of a legislative policy statement relating to
full support, full state funding for the indigent defense that the Tarrant County provides. The Texas Fair Defense Act was passed in 2001, and since that time, the costs to Tarrant County have risen approximately upwards of 197%. The first year that was in place, it cost Tarrant County $5.7 million. The cost in FY 2015 was $16.4 million, of which we were only reimbursed $1.6 million. This represents the largest single unfunded mandate from the state to Tarrant County. We have a policy statement in place relating to opposition to unfunded mandates, but we felt that this one deserved particular attention because of the size.
I move approval with a comment. I'll second and listen to your comment. The comment is that directives from various state officials that we should lower our tax rate don't take into consideration the unfunded mandates that they put upon us as a governing body and us as local taxpayers. They give us the responsibility, they direct that we do certain things, and they promise that they're going to pay the cost of doing those things. But when it comes down to stepping up to the lick log, we, the local taxpayers, are the only ones that step up. And the state is never anywhere in evidence. So it's hypocritical on their part to be running around the state holding hearings on what our tax rate ought to be when they give no consideration to how they have impacted what our local tax rate must be by asking us to do things, by mandating that we do things, and not sending the money to pay for them. That's my comment.
I didn't want to get into a debate with the good doctor, but I wanted to make that comment then, but I decided to leave it alone.
Well, I'm sorry, he's no longer here.
Well, he's running for office. He's got to move.
I understand.
We've had a motion, a second, and we've had a little discussion. So please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, Ms. McMillan is going to do item number 2.
Just be careful this morning.
Aggies won. The Commissioners Court is asked today to approve the issuance by Tarrant County Cultural Education Facilities Finance Corporation of Series 2016 Hospital Revenue Bonds for Christus Health in an amount not to exceed $220 million. These bonds will be utilized to acquire and merge the Trinity Mother Frances Health System in Tyler into the Christus Health System, and will include facilities that are located at multiple sites in Tyler and Smith County, as well as to be spent in Jacksonville and Cherokee County and in Athens and Henderson County. None of the facilities to be funded are located in Tarrant County. However, the Cultural Education Facilities Finance Corporation has a long history with Christus Health and has previously issued hospital revenue bonds for Christus in 2007, 8, 9, 11, 12, and 13. All of the public hearings and notices have been prepared and done by the Education Facilities Finance Corporation, and resolutions of approval as it relates to the issuance for the facilities in their counties have been received from Smith, Cherokee, and Henderson counties. Tarrant County, as you know, is not liable for repayment of the principal or interest of these bonds. This is simply approval for IRS tax exempt status for the bonds.
I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I've got a question. Is Christus a for-profit hospital?
No.
Commissioner Fickus, Christus is a nonprofit hospital system.
Okay, and Mother Francis, of course, is also a nonprofit?
Yes, sir, that is.
Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Ms. Tidwell.
We have one item we're asking the Commissioners Court to consider this morning, and that is to receive and file the Tarrant County financial statements for the period ended July 2016.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Phillips.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's requested that Commissioners Court award RFB number 2016-124 for the Tarrant County Plaza Garage Wireless Communication Facility lease, and we're also asking Commissioners Court to approve a real property lease with AT&T Wireless for AT&T to lease space for wireless communications equipment and antennas in the garage at 601 West Weatherford Street, Fort Worth.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
David?
You almost got away.
Yes, sir.
At your leisure, could you get me a list of how many different cell tower leases we have?
I can do that right now, sir.
Just one?
One.
Okay, that's it, huh?
We bid this out. We actually reached out to Verizon and other folks, and this AT&T was the only one to respond for this one. We have had no inquiries to add antennas on any of our buildings.
Countywide? That's it?
Countywide.
Okay. We just don't have any tall buildings,
That's correct.
except JD's.
Just poke the bear there.
I move
to
receive and file the personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file the personnel agenda.
Before I
Please
have
vote.
to pop him.
Motion passes unanimously.
Good morning.
The VA will leave her today.
We have two additional items. The second item, we're asking the court to approve a waiver of terminal benefits for Constable Precinct 6, Constable Siegel's chief deputy, who you actually recognized earlier today, is retiring in September with 323 vacation hours. The constable is requesting a waiver effective September 21st, with a net cost to the general fund of approximately $15,500, including fringe benefits.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our third and final item is another waiver of terminal benefits, this time for JP Precinct 4. Judge Wright is requesting a waiver of 392 vacation hours effective September 7th with a net cost to the general fund of approximately $10,100, including fringe benefits.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come on down, Benny. Mosquitoes still biting?
Yes, sir, they are. Good morning, Your Honor, and members of the court.
Good morning, Judge.
Public Health is requesting approval of a lease agreement between Tarrant County and WCJ Wilson 95 Limited, a Texas limited partnership for the Public Health Department's Arlington WIC Clinic site. We had a WIC clinic at the New York location. That lease is coming to an end, and we're sort of outgrown that space and looking to move that location. And eventually, in this same location, we're also going to relocate our Arlington Adult Health Services Clinic as well. This location has a lot of room that we could use.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a
Got
motion and a
good
second.
parking.
Yes, sir.
Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Good food there, too.
Come on down, Jack. I don't want to hear it.
He's
Baseball?
suffering.
We're talking about baseball?
We have 10 items for your consideration this morning.
I know you won by 1 point.
1 by 1 is 2. So.
As high as they can count.
Our first item is a bid award recommendation.
Shannon, how did y'all do? I know how we did. How'd y'all do?
Great.
Won by more than 1 point?
Definitely.
Okay. Go ahead, Jack.
Yes, sir. Bid award recommendation, RFP 2015-144. This is an RFP for a cloud-based electronic health record system for the Public Health Department. Recommendation be awarded to Electronic Health Record System Clearinghouse, amount of $313,239.93. If approved, we're seeking contract approval from the court.
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Question.
Okay.
Will this system talk to, interface with the system that JPS Health Network has?
So that's a complicated question. No direct connections because it is a different vendor. But a lot of these vendors now have their own connectivity tools, so to speak, sort of their own private HIEs. So if both parties sign on to each other's, like Epic has Epic Connect, and this vendor would have their own, I don't remember the name, what their HIE is called. But then if you have both parties sign on to that, then yes, connectivity happens. Or the other option would be to actually connect with a, public HIE, a company that's in the business of connecting different EMR providers.
Well, I would submit that it makes little sense for us to spend this much money on a system that doesn't interconnect with the hospital district system. So whatever y'all need to do to make that happen, you need to do that and
Yes,
make
sir.
that happen.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And the funding, the renewal funding of $59,000, where does that money come from? Is that also from grant? Or?
Right, so it's coming from the public health dollars, so from our budget. Variety of pots, we banded stuff together for renewal funding, but it will be from the public health approved budget.
Okay, but that includes everything, right? Not
Correct.
Maintenance.
Yes. Right, the yearly fees, their model is very different. They charge based on per medical provider. So at this point, we have, we believe, 6 clinical medical providers on site. So that's why the renewal fees are based on that, and it will include everything that they provide. It's a cloud-based service, so all the maintenance, upgrades, all those type of things are included.
And all the security, encryption.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes,
No
sir.
Russian hackers gonna get in there.
We hope not. Yes, sir.
Those Chinese are gonna word that.
Any other questions I can answer?
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 2 is another bid award recommendation for RFP 2016-123. RFP for Juvenile Services Drug Court Program Cannabis Youth Therapy and Family Support Network. Recommendation to award to Santa Fe Youth Services, about $105,000. Again, we're seeking contract approval from the court if you choose to approve this.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 3 is another bid award recommendation for RFP 2016-134, RFP for Family Support Youth Transition Program. Recommendation would be to award the Lena Pope Home, amount of $50,000. Again, if approved, we're seeking contract approval from the court.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 4 is another bid award recommendation for RFQ 2016-139A, Juvenile Residential Services. Our recommendation would be to award 13 vendors as shown in your court communique for a total of $2,400,000. Once again, we're asking for contract approval from the court.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Go to item number 5, which again is a bid award recommendation for RFP 2016-149, RFP for Drug and Alcohol Laboratory Confirmation Testing Services. recommendation be to award per the terms of the contract according to the primary and secondary vendors as shown in your court communique.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 6 is a bid award recommendation for bid 2016-177, signing a contract for air filters and filter replacement services. Recommendation be toward a per enterprise basis and a service call rate, awarding to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors meeting all specifications as shown in the court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Number 7 is another bid award recommendation for bid 2016-188, signing a contract for lawn maintenance. Recommendation would be toward a per enterprise basis, awarding to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors meeting all specifications as shown in the court communique.
Move for approval.
Second with a question. What county facilities are covered by this contract?
Pretty much everything.
Well, there's a,
There's that second page. There's a second page on the attachment to the court communication. It outlines the various buildings.
15. There's some vacant lots.
15 different locations.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Is this a new company, an existing company we've been using?
This is a new vendor. We had some scheduling problems, and it is a new firm. We've met with them as well as facilities in conjunction, and
We've experienced some significant issues with our landscaping in our building, and they seem to have gotten better here in the last 30 days, and I didn't know whether that was the old company.
This
Anybody
is-
have an answer for me?
this is a new firm, and
Okay.
we
They're
feel
not
like
on
that
the job yet.
they get the message.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 8, another bid award recognition for bid 2016-199, signing a contract for microfiche and microfilm equipment maintenance and supplies. Recommendation be to award on a pre-enterprise basis, awarding to a company called Office Store Depot Incorporated.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 9 is an item in regards to RFQ 2016-183, request for qualification for construction materials testing and geotechnical engineering services. We are seeking permission from the court to conduct negotiations when needed for the 13 firms as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our last item, number 10, item in regards to RFQ 2016-191, request for qualifications for HVAC testing, adjustment, balancing, professional services. Again, we're seeking permission from the court to conduct negotiations when needed with the 3 firms as shown in court communique.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any appointments today? Being none, then we'll move on to the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius?
Thank you. Members of the court, we have one item to talk with you about this morning. This concerns the FY17 budget issues. Mr. Snyder is here to address the court.
Is Mr. Vinnie not going to speak about his mosquitoes?
Not today, we're going to
Okay.
do it today.
Shucks.
You might notice that there are charts that we attach to your court book, those, the accounts are going down.
While she's doing that, I'd like to
This one has
recognize
coloring on it.
two distinguished personages
Yes,
who are
please.
visiting with us today. One is Mr. Ken Shetter, the mayor of Burleson.
Stand on up there, Kim.
The other is Chief Joel Fitzgerald, the police chief for the city of Fort Worth. Welcome, gentlemen.
Okay, we'll get started. Some more copies coming, but all of the affected departments should have gotten a copy of this on Friday. So we're here today with what we hope are the last adjustments to the 2017 budget, because as Mr. Mania said, we're scheduled to approve the budget on the 13th, which is next Tuesday. So in the document I've handed out to you, those things that are highlighted in blue are ones that are a joint recommendation of the budget office and the administrator's office that we are recommending their approval. As you compare the bottom line with the revenues to be added, it is a zero impact. And let me point out, and Commissioner Wynn asked this question this morning, so I want to make it clear to you. We are not spending road and bridge money on these operations, these things on this page right here. There's a road and bridge addition to cash carry forward that will actually reduce the operating transfer that's needed to fund road and bridge fund and the general fund, making those dollars available for these items. If you have any specific questions, one more thing I will point out, we've talked in the beginning that we originally had budgeted up to $2 million for additional lump sum contribution toward our unfunded liability for retirement, but we told you that we were concerned about group insurance, even though we've had healthy increases in this budget related to that. So we are formally requesting that we move that $2 million down to group insurance. We will continue a watchful eye to see how it matures over the next 3 months, being September, October, and November, because we will make our elections for retirement in the month of December.
I believe that Criminal District Attorney Sharon Wilson has a counter offer.
Sure.
Thank you first for the positions that you provided in the budget. I have just an additional request, and that is how important it is that the Felony Family Violence Unit be funded. And my request is, in keeping with the importance of that unit, that that we reduce our Michael Morton 10 positions to 5, include the domestic violence unit of 4 attorneys, and then that would actually come in under budget for you all by about $25,000, it looks like. And that way we would actually be able to start addressing the felony family violence unit or problem that we have in Tarrant County. And I know that y'all are cognizant of that problem. Also with us today is Catherine Jacobs with Safe Haven, who's the executive director. And I wanted y'all to know something that you probably don't know yet, and that is that Safe Haven has applied for a grant for the city of Fort Worth to actually start aggressively arresting and investigating felony family violence charges. We can expect that that's going to increase our number of those cases, and we actually also need to increase the number of lawyers that we have that are available to deal with that. By doing it this way, we will be able to, hopefully satisfy both issues. And that would be our request. Instead of the 10 Michael Morton positions, that we would have 5 and the 4 attorneys for felony family violence.
Well, I want to applaud you. I keep wanting to call you Judge Wilson. You'll always be Judge Wilson to me, for your sensitivity in our dilemma of how we take very scarce resources and address very important issues that face our various constituencies. This is a Solomonic solution in which we split the baby and do a little bit of justice to two different issues.
I think I understood that word. And I appreciate, too, very much. My contention in this all along, I mean, I am an extreme supporter of the domestic violence unit and what are we doing. We've had a misdemeanor before, or we've had felony people operating out of a misdemeanor court before. And in all the stuff that we're talking about, over the last couple of years, we have, in the drug forfeiture funds, we have moved all the costs out of that over into general revenue. We used to say, you'll remember 3 or 4 years ago, the state cut the grant for the narcotics unit, and we had made the statement as a court that we weren't, if the state or the federal government didn't see the need for the units, we were going to look at it. But when this one came up, we said, this is important to us, and we allocated originally $600,000 to make up difference between what was collected and what was spent. And that has moved up to the $900,000 amount, I believe, last year. And over the years, we've actually put in more than $900,000. Through what's happened recently, we've moved all the cost out of that, but the forfeiture revenue continues to go in this D87 fund. This year, we were asked on the Michael Morton and as well as the domestic violence to pick up about another $1 million worth of costs. And you've offered $400,000 of that forfeiture fund.
For the 10 positions, and so we will still offer the $400,000 for what would now be 9 positions.
And so what I would like to see, that forfeiture fund can be used for anything in your office as long as it's something for state law. And you've objected, you basically said, in your opinion, it can't be used for your drug forfeiture attorneys.
It can't be used for attorneys, correct?
For drug forfeiture attorneys.
Well, that was the only request prior to.
And that's what I'm saying. So what I would like to maybe counteroffer, and again, those funds could be used for anything over in the DA's office as long as it's in your body as from a law. I would like to suggest a compromise that instead of putting it at $400,000, I think you've got a little over $1 million in that account right now. I would like to say that 75% of whatever revenue is collected every year will go into your budget to help fund for Michael Morton or for these domestic violence attorneys that we're talking about, and then you would retain 25%, which you can still do with, I guess, whatever you want to, I think subject to the court's approval, and make that as an alternative to just saying $400,000. Again, it gets everything you want, but it defines exactly what's going to happen to that forfeiture fund that in the past we had said the revenues less the expenses, and then we would put up the net difference. And we've ended up picking up now all of the expenses, and the revenue just remains there to be spent. And I'm just saying, give us 75%, you keep 25% on an annual basis, go forward, and then we could add those domestic violence folks in there.
We can add the domestic violence people in with the proposal that I've submitted, which is 5 Michael Morton and 4 domestic violence attorneys, and then we would pay to the county the $400,000, as I understand it, for the Combined Narcotics Enforcement Task Force, not for salaries. And that would be our proposal. I would be absolutely willing at some point in the future to talk to you about what is spent out of the narcotics fund. I have that data. I will tell you that I have reached agreements with all the different police agencies to increase the take of the police instead of the DA's office. In our county, typically the DA's office took 50% of every asset forfeiture, when the police actually need this money for bulletproof vest, for everything that they do. And we have just recently worked with them to reduce our take by what's going to be about $100,000 a year, giving that money back to the police agencies. That agreement actually puts us in line with the other counties, because there really was no other county in Texas where the DA's office took 50% of the, or even, what were we taking, 60%? We're giving back another 10% to the police agencies, and we were actually the DA's office that took the most amount of money in. So I am interested to see what our revenue looks like. I will be happy to share with you every single dime that we spend out of that unit, which right now is going to spend for printers, copiers,
But
chairs.
all that's been transferred over to us.
Actually, it hasn't. You have cut that out of my budget. So I don't have any capital expenditures in my budget. They're all coming out of the D87 now. So I'm absolutely willing at some point in the future to talk to you about that. I think it would be smarter to wait and see what it looks like in a calendar year. But for this calendar year, for your decision today, our proposal would actually achieve exactly what you want, which is what we need, 9 positions, but also giving you the $400,000 back, which would come in under budget as was requested in the document that came out Friday afternoon.
And I hear that, Sharon, but again, between what we have taken over in the last couple of years, the $900,000 was not supposed to be here's a flat amount. We've now taken all the expenses, with the exception maybe of some of these capital items. We've just now added, and I'm grateful to add the $1 million or close to $1 million that we're talking about between Michael Morton and the domestic family. And all we're looking for is a percentage as opposed to, last year I think the collected revenue was somewhere around $600,000. So in that particular instance, we would have gotten $450,000. But this year it's been over $1 million. And so what I would just like to do is to say, again, 75%, 25%, and go ahead and do it right now. And I would make a motion that we approve all of this, and the only change being that the revenue that would come in, and add the positions for the domestic violence, but the only change being that instead of looking at just $400,000 per year, that we look at just splitting it 75-25. If you're giving more to the cities, that means we're still going to be splitting 75-25. The 75 we're getting will help cover the domestic violence and the Michael Morton. The 25 you're getting, you can still use, I think it's a recommendation to the court, and then I believe we have to approve that as expenditures go out of that particular account.
As you recall, when the narcotics unit was closed, the portion, and you all approved all the paperwork, and it actually was really not a financial impact for the county budget, because those positions, which were the attorneys that were criminal prosecutors in the narcotics unit budget that you all paid high dollars for, those positions were done away with. So the asset forfeiture lawyers still exist, but the attorneys that were, and there was a team out there that we actually no longer use for several reasons. Number one, criminal drug cases are some of the easiest cases that we have to prosecute. We don't need a special unit. They were kind of a vestige of the time that it was a grant and we could put a lot of different positions in that grant. So I think that the actual numbers are not as severe as you're telling me, and they may be, but I would need to go back and look at that. Our request is to be able to do both, to be able to do the felony family violence as well as the Michael Morton, and to give you that $400,000, which is the proposal that you all sent around, or that was sent around on your behalf on Friday afternoon at 5:30. And the one that we're prepared to address today.
Again, my motion would be 75%, a 75-25 split.
Okay.
You may die for a lack of a second. But again, what are you going to do with the $1 million? It's basically we're having to spend taxpayer money in lieu of spending money that's sitting in a fund in D87.
And that money is actually going to save money from taxpayers, because we use it to buy the capital expenditures, chairs, now coming up, printers, copiers.
So, but it's all said and done,
everything.
you got $1 million in the accounts you had to spend.
Oh, yes. So do you want to hear the rest of the items?
Sure.
Okay.
As long as it adds up to $1 million.
Well, it doesn't add up to $1 million yet, and honestly, I think I've said to several of you all, at some point, we'd be happy to turn that over and maybe do a study of the building, the facility, which we've expressed several times is not really sufficient for our office. So there are several things that could be done that can save county money. We're not spending it on non-county events. One of the things that we're doing, we're trying to increase the experience level and the expertise of our attorneys. And so we're asking them to consider getting board certified in their particular specialty. And by doing that, we actually pay for those additional dues and testing fees out of this account so that we get better prosecution. So it is still county expenditures. We are not doing anything, that's not a county expenditure. And yeah, it's more money today than it was a year ago, but I expect it to decrease. And as you know, it is one of the hot topics with the legislature this time to completely change asset forfeiture so there's no money there at all. So yes, there is some money. But if the legislature changes the law, then this is going to be all we have to spend for capital expenditures for the next foreseeable future, or to come back to you all to have capital expenditures put on your budget. I actually think this is good money management. It's not perfect money management, but honestly, for the last 2 years, the last 2 fiscal years, we've cash carried forward over $2 million. $2 million last year, we're expecting over $2 million this year. And so we actually believe that this is a fair use of that money, which is that we would give you the $400,000 and get the Michael Morton positions of 5 and the domestic violence positions of 4. Honestly, as a compromise, because that's how important the felony domestic violence unit is.
But the 75%, all of it would still go in to your budget area. It's just that it will save the taxpayer dollars from the standpoint that it's moved over and it's under the control of the county from that overall standpoint.
We cannot pay for ethically, and as a matter of public policy, will not spend that money on salaries. I know that you have a legal opinion that says the law allows it, and the law may allow it. In fact, I think the law does allow it. Ethically, I would suggest that that's not a good use of that money. It's not proper. We're not willing to do that from an ethical standpoint. And
but I think we're asking you to pay for we're basically asking you to give us that money. It will pay for the domestic violence unit. It will pay for the Michael Morton attorneys, and it'll be gone.
And let me let Vince speak to the whole issue of using that money for salaries.
Yeah, it's never been an issue of whether it's legally solely used for the DA's office, and we're aware of Mr. Allison's opinion, and we agree with it. The whole issue has always been one of an ethical concern in that it incentivizes a potential forfeiture of assets in order to meet the budgetary needs of salaries. That's always been a big concern ethically for lawyers. It's no different than what a lot of municipalities are under criticism now for basically making their budgets a part of, or making fines, traffic fines, forfeiting bonds, a part of their budgetary processes, which can serve as a driver for wrongful arrest and everything else. We don't have that problem. Some municipalities are being criticized for that problem. What we don't want ethically is to have our salaries, that is the existence of some of our prosecutors, dependent upon the asset forfeitures that we meet every single fiscal year. That's obviously a big concern of ours. That's why it is the subject of some criticism with the state legislature. Some legislators want to do away with that because, again, it provides a wrongful incentive for that. That's the issue. Not a legal issue, ethical issue. It's one that our office has to quarrel with, the one that we have to. It is, asset forfeiture is supposed to be the byproduct or the result of lawful law enforcement, not be the drive for law enforcement. And that's what we're concerned about.
Vince, can you help me understand who manages the forfeiture fund? Who has the authority
Yeah.
to say how that money should be spent?
There is no question that asset forfeiture funds is considered to be county money. It is public money. However, it's dedicated county money out of Article 5906 that is solely for the use of the DA's office. So again, it's very consistent that that can be used for salary, for increases in salary, for capital expenses of the CDA's office, Criminal District Attorney's office, subject to Commissioner's Court approval. But again, the issue is that if we're dependent upon the level of that fund, on whether or not some survivors are let go, or some survivors or some prosecutors can be hired, that's the concern we have in the years going forward. And that's always been the concern.
Okay. What I heard you said was the Commissioner's Court has the authority
That's correct.
to determine how that money is spent in accordance to the letter of the law.
No, not how it's being spent. It is subject to approval by the Commissioner's Court. Again, it's still determined by the Criminal District Attorney on whether or not it lawfully meets the sole use of that office, whether it is a true expenditure, whether it be to increase the salary, to fund 100% of the salary, or to pay for a copier.
So the district attorney would make a proposal as to how that money should be spent on an annual basis.
That is correct.
And then the Commissioner's Court would approve or not.
Again, the public, that is correct. And the rationale being, public policy is we want a second set of eyes to make sure that that is the lawful public use of the money and that it is not being used as the incentive to fund a year-to-year salary position. Again, I believe that that's the public policy behind that. We're aware of the 2008 AG opinion by Greg Abbott, which certainly says legally that it can be used to fund salaries. In 2013, the Article 5906 was amended to say the do's and don'ts of what they can be used for. While it doesn't change that, I think it adds to the concern about, that's why it needs Commissioner's Court approval, to make sure that's not what's happening, that assets are not being forfeited in order to meet budgetary needs on a year-to-year basis.
I find Mr. Cruz's argument to be persuasive in that I have always opposed funding fixed costs like salaries from a fluctuating revenue stream. It's a public policy problem for me.
Mm-hmm. I have a question. Ms. Wilson.
Oh, okay.
The $400,000 that you're talking about, what's your total number in that account, that forfeiture account?
The total amount in the D87 forfeiture account currently is $819,000.
Then there's the D83.
819?
What's
I'm sorry.
D83?
It's the non-drug.
D83 is the account that is a non-drug asset forfeiture that was set up at my predecessor's request when the cigarette settlement occurred. And I believe he sent a memo over and got a separate account set for D83, which was never used to pay for the narcotics unit, as I understand it. D87 was the narcotics unit account, and that currently has $819,000 in it.
And the drug, that's
Which
not...
I'd be giving you all immediately half of that, which I expect would be used not for salaries, but perhaps for facilities, because Chapter 59 specifically allows the DA's office to pay for facilities versus the police agencies.
Okay, and the D87 account, the revenue come in, who collected that money? Is it the police departments?
The police departments do the seizures.
Okay.
And then the civil action to receive the money is filed by our asset forfeiture attorneys. For that, we get a percentage of whatever they seized.
And right now, the split is 50% to the police departments within Tarrant County.
Right.
And 50% is kept at the district attorney.
Yes, and it's about to be 60% to the police agencies.
And 40%.
40% to the district attorney's office. And so it's completely dependent on
I thought it was 60 and it was going down to 50.
Our take is 10% less, so I think it was 50-50, and we just reduced it, so it's 60 to the police, 40 to the DA, which is in line with other agencies, other DA's offices in counties around Texas. So they file the asset forfeiture, the money is collected if there's a judgment, and then it is dispersed to the police agencies, and then we keep whatever portion is ours.
The $400,000 that you mentioned here, is that an annual contribution from the D87 account, or is that just a one-time contribution?
The proposal that you all received says that for this year, it's a $400,000 contribution. And I'm assuming that it's for the narcotics task force. I have never talked to anyone except for GK, who I don't think is intending to run the narcotics task force, about that unit. So I don't have any idea.
Didn't we transfer that to the sheriff's office earlier this year?
It was transferred to the sheriff's office. I've not heard from the sheriff requesting this money. And of course, we don't have a new sheriff until after November.
So the sheriff
elect
that, when we transferred things to the sheriff, did we transfer any percentage of the revenue?
Yes.
How much?
They were receiving 60% already. We had raised their percentage because they were going to take the unit.
Wait a minute, so so the money that you've been collecting, so
They get a portion of the money that they've been, they're already receiving a portion because they're one of the people that file asset forfeitures with us.
well, I
so they
understand
get
that
it.
when they seize it, but what happens if Fort Worth goes out and seizes something?
Right.
They get what was, I guess, then 50%, and the other 50% stayed with you, and with that, you paid the salaries and all the equipment stuff.
We did not pay the salaries.
Well, you
I don't
paid
think-
some because we transferred them out of there at one point in time.
So as I understand it, the Fort Worth Police Department is not part of the Combined Narcotics Enforcement Task
Well, let's
Force.
take Hearst, for example, because I know that one.
Hearst, and your question was, Hearst would, if they see something while they were working for the task force, then they would receive a portion of that. The task force, the county would receive a portion of that, and a portion of it would come to the DA's office
And so
because
that's-
we did all the paperwork.
So it's been 50-50. So let's just assume that in that Hearst case, there was $100,000 seized. 50,000 would go to Hearst. Yes?
You know, I cannot accurately answer that because the percentages are different. If it's strictly a police agency, it's 60-40. 60 to the police, 40 to us.
Well, let's just
If
deal with the
it's-
40% that comes to you.
Okay,
So we collect 100,000, 40,000 comes to you. That's
Right.
under the old theory, under the old formula, before we switched anything to the sheriff's office.
no, if they are doing it through the task force, a portion of it goes to the task force.
40%.
I just cannot tell you the percentage because it is, I believe, more complicated than that, and I rely on Ann Wright, who is the asset forfeiture guru with our office and a state expert. So I can't tell you the number.
But whatever came over to the drug task force
Right,
in the past came into the drug task force's revenue.
right, and it still does.
And then all the expenses were paid, or whatever expenses we had in there, which were salaries, some operating expenses, all of those things were paid out of that D87 account. Correct?
I don't have any idea. You mean in the past, before I got
Yes.
here?
Yeah.
You know,
Okay, I'll ask
Debbie
Debbie.
says yes.
Okay, so then what happened is we transferred the drug task force over to the sheriff's department. All
Right.
the expenses.
Right,
But the revenue all stayed with you. The revenue that had been coming to the drug task force, in my example,
Right.
$40,000 stayed there, but all the expenses went either to the sheriff's department or that. And so that's what I'm, so the taxpayers get to pay for all this over here, but we don't get any share of the revenue that's coming into the drug task force.
let me suggest that you do, because I gave you a cash carry forward for the last 2 years of $2 million a year. So by being a very careful money manager and moving those attorneys that were asset forfeiture lawyers into our budget, which did not increase our overall budget from year to year, right? So I wish I'd known we were going to do the whole asset forfeiture thing. I'd have brought you a PowerPoint. Did not increase our number of attorneys in the general fund per year, and then those attorneys that were paid for, we believe, unethically, incorrectly, out of that asset forfeiture fund, the prosecutors, the criminal prosecutors, those positions no longer exist. So there was no additional expense.
I think over those last 2 years, the county contributed to basically offset expenses about $2 million a year. Now, there may have been money left over, but as I recall, in 2015 or 14, we transferred about 1.1 million into D87. And the year subsequent to that, 15, how much did we distribute or transfer over in 15?
It was over $700,000, but we had transferred those 3 criminal attorneys in during FY15 into the general fund with the intention of reducing the operating subsidy for the task force.
So
unfortunately, that didn't materialize.
We're way into the numbers, and I know that's where I love to be, but not everybody else has that appreciation for details as I have. I guess what I heard you just say is that you're going to give us $400,000 this year with no guarantees into the future. And what I'm saying is I would like for it to be 75% of whatever you collect on an annual basis in the forfeiture funds, and you keep 25%, and we use it to, you use it within your department to be able to do things as you see fit to do.
And my response again is that I'll be happy to talk to you all about that at a future time when I have the numbers and realize that that's what the topic is going to be. What I am saying today, for the budget purposes of today, is that our proposal will actually come in less than what you set aside. We will, as instructed here, provide $400,000 to the county to use however you intend to, but I think it's for the narcotics unit. And our overall request would then be about $27,000 less. And so for purposes of budgeting today, the DA's office, I actually believe that that is a fair compromise so that we can address Michael Morton as well as the intimate partner violence that is such a problem.
And again, I'm sorry, but what I'm saying is just as we've said, what we're being offered here is a grant, a $400,000 grant this year if we'll create 8 new positions with no guarantee next year that we're going to get any money from that. And so what I'm suggesting is we accept this request and offer back as you give us 75% on an annual basis of whatever is collected in the forfeiture. And for that, we've now got these positions. We're going to pay for them. And then in years in the future, if the 75% goes to zero because of what the legislature does, those positions are still here. But let's.
Glenn, what makes 75% the golden number?
Well, I'd take 100%, but I don't think she'd be willing to give it. And what she's offering this year, she says, is about 50% of the 400,000. So I'm just saying, let's compromise and let's make it 75%.
Okay, so if we're going to do a percentage, then do I get my 14 positions? Because the proposal you all gave us was 10 Michael Morton and not a single family violence attorney. So 10 Michael Morton, no family violence attorneys for $400,000. So if I'm going to start talking percentages, then do I get all 14 attorneys that I've requested, as well as appropriate office space, which let me suggest is not cubicles. So I mean, I'm willing to work with you on that. Today, as I understand, is the day. And using this formula that you all set out, which is 10 positions, I'll go for 9, still giving you the $400,000, and we can talk later about what else we need with that money.
We control this budget, so I move that we approve the criminal district attorney's request for the 5 positions for Michael Morton and the 4 positions for domestic violence, for a total $890,848.
And one payment of $400,000 with
And
no guarantee in the future.
$400,000. Right.
I'm assuming that my motion fell for a lack of a second.
I'll second Garrett's motion.
Which motion? Mine or the judge's?
Yours.
Oh, okay.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes 4-1.
Now,
I
we're
hope
still
you'll be
gonna
back
have
here to
that
negotiate.
discussion.
I understand, and I will come prepared with the data. Thank
Need
you.
to hire an attorney so they can argue with you. And that won't be Vince. And it won't be Vince. Might be.
Okay, I have a quick question. Ms. Wilson? Ms. Wilson?
I apologize.
I'm sorry, don't. At one time, we received communication from your office that the court chief for the family violence unit, you were going to pay for by eliminating 3 admin clerical positions?
That's correct.
And that's still the
why
case?
that position's not on there.
Okay, so we need that information so we can wrap all of that into the final budget and make sure that you're aware of that. So in essence, there will be a total of 5 for family violence, but we will be eliminating 3 admin clericals that you say, we have not looked at them because we don't know the position numbers yet, will pay for or equal the salary of the court chief, which is a grade
Which
77.
will be in this budget year.
This budget year 17? We just need to make it all effective at the same time. I think it's just kind of cleaner and in the records at the same time. That's
Actually, our hope was, this is FY16, right?
correct.
That we would create that court chief position back in this year's budget so that we'd be ready to address the additional 4 attorneys in family violence in FY17. That also makes it clear that that is a 0 cost to the commissioners and to the county because we're doing it out of this year's budget with positions we currently already have and are budgeted for. And then those 4 additional positions are the new positions so that we have a felony family violence unit, they'd be in FY 2017. Does that make sense? I may not be explaining that correctly.
I think what she's saying is you said you were going to eliminate 3 positions for this one, so we've got to have the 3 positions in order to reconcile.
Yeah, we've done this before, and Shannon will be in touch with all the paperwork. And
So where is the request?
I'm sorry, sir?
Where is the request?
It was given to us, I think it was communicated with Helen somewhere along the line. But we don't know
which honestly, we were holding, because if we didn't get a family violence unit, there's no reason to have a felony court chief over family violence. So while we had talked to Helen about the 3 positions that we wanted to do away with, until we heard from you all, we weren't going to submit the paperwork. But please, if you all pass this today, expect that paperwork within the next day.
I think this is something we can just simply, working with the DA's office, we can simply roll it into the FY17 budget with no issue. This is not an issue.
But we do need those position numbers today because we have to finish this in order
Thank
to
you.
get it approved. So we're going to, and one more question, I'm sorry. D87 is going to pay for all the renovations, the furniture, and the computer equipment for the new positions?
That was not my understanding.
Okay, so
My understanding was a $25,000 commitment.
from,
No.
I thought that's what we were just talking about.
$400,000?
I'm sorry, what?
Furnishings will be purchased by the CDA forfeiture funds for $42,500.
Oh, right, that's thank you. My capital expenditures for FY 2017 that I have requested are, y'all had zeroed out so that we pay for it out of narcotics funds, yes.
And we zeroed out that after talking to your office, but this is also taking out the $25,000 for the renovations. So D87 is going to pay for that also?
Yes.
Okay, and computer equipment?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Who does?
I think we either have to decide that we're gonna pay for it or she's gonna pay for it.
Any computer equipment for new employees that's available to IT will not be available till October 1st. And I know you've got several of these you wanted to schedule earlier than that, well, to be effective October 1st. But they won't have the purchasing power to move forward until afterwards. Okay. All right. So we're gonna have $400,000 transferred from D87 into the general fund. There's 5 positions for Michael Morton, and again, and I'm sorry, we'll have to talk about the effective date of those. Domestic violence, 4 positions, and a grade 77 to be accomplished through eliminating 3 administrative clerical positions. That's for the district attorney's office.
Okay, I would like, if it's okay with the court, for this court to receive a thorough briefing, down to the details, regarding this D87 fund.
Sure.
The narcotic task force, go back to the historical data and see if we can get some insight.
Sure.
How we are planning to pay for this task force under the sheriff department and so forth. And then we could probably have some insight to move forward. I understand your proposal, or we are committing to an annual recurring fee of $1.3 million, where we only get $400,000 a lump sum one time. So if we can, I trust the spirit of what you committed, that you would be open in discussion with this court of how we can work together to best use that fund without a lot of implication to the taxpayers. I trust that you will be able to do that. And in order for this court, at least for me, I don't have the benefit of the historical insights. Okay, I've only been here for 5-6 years. So some of these things that y'all may know, I had no idea. So I would appreciate if we take the time to do that.
We will make that, we'll work with the district attorney's office and bring the court a report back as it relates to those issues.
And may I also suggest that the Narcotics Enforcement Task Force is a sheriff's office entity. And so at some point, we actually need to have something from them, which I don't have anything. I haven't.
We have some preliminary
I'm
information.
actually on the task force.
We've been working with the chief deputy on this, and the sheriff's department is fully informed on what we're doing moving forward.
Okay.
And we've had some preliminary conversations with the incoming sheriff.
We don't have any incoming sheriff, do we?
I think we do,
Oh, well,
but
when-
there has to be an election first.
Good point. Thank you.
Debbie, do you still plan to stagger these positions in?
My understanding is family violence is 11-1. That hasn't changed because they use the same number that we have out here for that. And I'm not really sure about the Michael Morton because we did have those staggered in with 4 in October, 2 in November, 2 in December, and 2 in January. So I'm not really sure what effective date you're intending.
The chief of staff has drafted effective dates which staggers these 9 positions through the year. And so,
and if they are staggered, just, and that's why we put this information on this communication for you, so you would know what the annual impact is once we're into FY 18.
Well, I'd like to have a list of that when you get it from the DA's
Sure.
office.
What about the other positions?
Which other, the balance of the spreadsheet?
Yes.
Well, if they're highlighted in blue, then again, joint recommendation between the administrator's office and the budget office is that we approve those. So everything else is highlighted in blue.
So we need a motion on 1, 3 through 10.
I think the motion is 3 through 10.
3 through 10.
3 through 10, because 1 and 2 have been modified.
I'll make that
Approval of
motion.
3 through 10.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
I know it.
Okay, And the only other thing left for us to do besides put all this information is if, in there, we'll rerun the merit and structure increases one more time based on the most current payroll. It usually goes down a little, but not significantly. But we will look at that.
Can I visit with you? Yeah. Blue Mountain Dew.
Okay, anything else?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Then we'll recess our open meeting to close to discuss items. Wait a minute, what? Wait a minute. Wait. Is Chip still back? Chip still in here? I thought he was a few minutes ago, but I think he had to leave, so. We'll recess our open meeting to discuss items exempted under sections 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code. I don't know. Having returned from our closed session, we'll now address the following matter.
Members of the Court, we can go to the Administrator's Office, section item 9A3. This concerns the probate statutory, or the statutory probate judge out of probate court number 2. There is a vacancy currently, and what staff is recommending is that you authorize staff to advertise and have those applications into the Administrator's Office by September 23rd, which is a Friday, and for the Commissioner's Court review.
Why don't we make it noon on Friday or somewhere around that time frame, just so that, or we can make it 5, I don't care, but just.
What we will do is, as soon as we get any applications, we will forward those to the court members. We're not going to wait till the 23rd.
Yeah, I understand, but do you want to have a set time on the 23rd when you want?
Let's do 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Close the business.
Close the business.
Is that okay with everyone?
Can I get a motion?
You can.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor. That's all we have.
Thank you.
Application should be made to the administrator's office?
Yes, we will advertise it.
We are adjourned.
I think that was a wonderful administrator's recommendation.
I got a call at 1 o'clock. That shouldn't take but about.
I believe that's what I heard.